Good morning, everyone. EagleX from ATX EagleX Gaming here today, and I have part 2 of how I'm preparing for Nationals. This is built off of part 1, so if you haven't seen it, go ahead and click in the link down below to watch part 1 about metagaming and what that means as a whole, because I'm going to be building up on that concept. Also, if you guys enjoy this type of content, I appreciate it if you can like, comment, and if you felt like I've earned your subscription, subscribe to the channel, because when I see support for this type of content, it lets me know I'm going in the right direction. With that being said, let's get things started off. So first, last time I talked about metagaming, and the whole concept of that was to understand what decks are going to be relevant. So if I'm trying to do this for EX3, I'm looking at the Limitless site, I'm seeing what decks are popular for EX3, and I can see Bloomlord was popular for all these online webcam events, same with Melga and Blue Flare, Jesmon, Black War. The reason I'm bringing this up is because BT11 is the set right after EX3, so one thing to be aware of is how popular old decks from the previous format are going to be into the new format. You can also see similar data here. This was deck list that we played here in the US. If you want to see an aggregate of the Japan stuff, this data is derived from Digimon TCG guide. I'll cover that in another video. But if you see the end of EX3, this is summarized here in the worldwide Digimon server under what topped this week. You can see Crossheart, Bloom Hydra, Blue Flare, Guru, and Jesmon were like the top 5 decks. So when I'm building a meta-analysis chart, I'm going to be aware of these 5 decks at least, because they're most relevant last format, and to see how relevant they are into this new format. But you can also see like how the metagame's been adapting in Japan's. It started out with Crossheart being probably one of the strongest decks, and this is pre-ban list for them. So they had Taiki, or not Taiki, they had X4 and Sunrises at 4s still. But you can see we have Black War Great X was down here in like the miscellaneous category to start with. And then started shifting up, being like the best deck. And we're talking about how it's still one of the best decks, but you see Grandis is creeping up on it along with Mastodon. And then we have basically the counter decks and the Black War deck. It's like Grandis, Mastodon being 2 great ways to play against Black War. Crossheart still being relevant. But like I said, I'm taking this into consideration. In addition to that, you can look at the source directly, Digimon card, DigimonCGguide.com. This site is in Japanese, but if you install a plugin on your browser, you can translate this entire site. So I can translate this entire page with Google Translate to get a better idea what these things are. But basically, these are the placements for how popular decks are that are performing well. Just be aware you'll see Beelzemon Star deck in their meta as well, and I believe this has a little bit of snippet of their BT12 environment as well, but it still holds up to being something valuable to look at. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about building good, choosing a deck, and why I look at metagaming in previous decks? Here I have an example of a spread chart here, and when I look at a spread chart, the whole purpose of it is when I'm playtesting and I'm trying out a bunch of different decks to see what's going to do well, I want to see how well my spread is. Now this is all miscellaneous, I randomized these numbers, so nothing's like an actual number. You can see I randomized it here. But the whole purpose of it is to show like, I'm going to look across one deck's spreads against the popular decks and decks I'm expecting to see. So Black War, it's going to be relevant, you're going to see it. Same with Mastodon, it's going to be popular, you're going to see it. Ulforce, probably not as popular, but I expect to see it because it's one of the new decks. Melga X, it's the good old reliable, I expect to see it. Same with Grandis, same with Bloom Hydra. Blue Flare, not as much. Jesmon, not as much. D-Brigade, not as much, but I expect to see them in some capacity. So I want to take a breakdown, like if I'm choosing Grandis, I want to look at what's not doing well in playtesting. When I'm playtesting my deck against other decks, what doesn't do well? You can also look online to see like matchup spreads. Maybe some people share, hey, this is how I performed in a tournament. And you want to see like, if Grandis is playing against decks like Ulforce, or I shouldn't say Ulforce, but like maybe it loses harder to control decks like Bloom Hydra. Melga X is just a fast aggressive deck. It would make sense it would lose here. And this is just to demonstrate. You can see how you can adjust your deck, because when you build a deck, it's not always going to be the same cookie cutter stuff. Grandis has different ways to be built. I'm always using Grandis as my example because that's what I have a lot of experience with. But when I'm playing Grandis, there's a few things you can like look at. You can look at Grandel Soul if you feel like you need to address aggressive decks as a way to punish them in security. Another way you see decks build it is not with Stingmon, even though Stingmon is a tech. Snymon. Yeah, there he is. As another way to help build your deck, he's searchable and he has a security effect to basically punish Melga to lose one more check. It's like that's a way you can start adapting to Melga when it needed to adapt to Crossheart. Back before Banlist and you saw the board flooded with bodies, you would see Death X teched into Grandis as a deck. But if we're talking about Black War, one of Black War's worst matchups, and I don't really have it demonstrated here, but it is decks like Grandis that have big stack removal. Grandis is the beat stick stack, and the beat stick stack will still swing over Black War even though it has protection from everything else, just not battle, and Grandis is great for battle. So maybe if you're looking at building your Black War deck, you want to look at different Omnimons to tech for it. Omnimon BT5, being able to negate your opponent's attack, which means the resolving effect will not finish a battle, so if Grandis attempts to swing over, you negate the attack. Maybe it's a worthwhile tech to look into. And obviously there's a lot of Omnimons. There's lots of ways you can tech. It doesn't have to be just Digimon. It could be options. You could find some Tamers to tech in as well. Probably not as relevant though. But just some things to be aware of. There are ways you can adapt once you see how your spreads are. Because when I start selecting my deck, I'm looking at how strong I feel my deck is into the meta. Maybe I love the fact Grandis is amazing into Black War. Maybe I like the fact it's great into Master because it's faster. I'm a little skeptical maybe of how it is into Melga though, because Melga being overly aggressive is what really hurts some OTK decks. So when I'm building my deck, maybe I'm going to max out on Grandel Soul just to punish a Melga player for swinging at me, so we can try bot decking their Digimon more frequently. Well guys, that is everything I have for this video. If you enjoyed this content, let me know in the comments down below. With that being said, take care y'all, and have a nice one.